Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features the Fantastic Four issue 256, cover dated July 1983. The cover, as always, is by John Byrne, pencils and inks by him. It's a pretty interesting design for this one. It is one he's repeating from issue 254, where the villain provided the background space for the Fantastic Four. So he's going to that trope again. A little bit too soon, I would say. He must have liked it. But as I've said, perhaps too soon to use it again, only 2 issues later. So we've got Annihilus there, and in the blacks of his body, we have the Fantastic Four in the negative zone. So another little note before moving into the issue itself is the cover corner box. So far, Byrne has been drawing new figures of the Fantastic Four in the corner boxes. He does the same this particular issue, but instead of having one member of the Fantastic Four stand out for a full body treatment, he's given us 4 headshots instead. Now let's open this one up to the splash page. There are 22 pages of story and art in this issue. This story, The Annihilation Gambit, marks the conclusion of the Fantastic Four's trip into the negative zone. The cliffhanger at the end of the previous issue was that Reed Richards, his mind is bonded with the ship that the alien used in the previous issue to try and escape the negative zone planet that he was stranded on for 30 decades. So Reed's mind is in the ship, but this device on his head that he whipped up himself allows his mind to transmit from the ship into his human body. So that's the setup here. And another issue for them is that the usual channel from the negative zone into the Baxter building lab has been destroyed. And the Fantastic Four, and Reed in particular, are trying to figure out what caused that and how to get back to our dimension and the Baxter building. So that's sort of covered in the narrative captions there. The drawing itself, it's well done, but something that kind of stands out to me, and maybe you can tell me whether you see the same thing, is that we're missing heroic proportions from the figures of, in particular, Johnny Storm there and Sue Richards. And that is something, a feature of Byrne's style that was particularly influential on the art of Dale Keown. So Keown, most definitely very influenced by Byrne, and sometimes he would produce similar figures in terms of the number of heads tall, not quite heroic proportions. And it kind of works, but it also stands out as very different from the formula set by the likes of Jack Kirby and John Buscema. I do like the version of the Thing there, though. John Byrne always does a very good version of the Thing. And what's coming up next on the page turn is a really excellent double page spread. But let's just ensure that we go through the creator credits. John Byrne, story and art. So script, pencils, inks by him, Glynis Wein on colours, and Jim Novak on letters rounds out the creative team. So turn the page, there is that double page spread. That is absolutely excellent. Like the Dutch angle there of the asteroid, if that's the word for it, that the Fantastic Four is standing on. They're looking at the point of connection between the negative zone and our dimension, let's call it that way, and they can just see North America there, but there is danger, because if they try to get home this way, we buy the farm but good, says Thing, because here in the negative zone we're made up of antimatter, and without the transferal system in the access tunnel, the second we touch Earth's atmosphere, we'll be destroyed, total annihilation. But as I said, really the star of the show on these couple of pages is the art. It's big, it's bold, it's exciting. I really like the use of foreshortening here and perspective on these cables that are reaching from the ship that Reed's mind is bonded to. And I like the way that it's clamped onto this particular asteroid chunk as their observation deck for the transition space to our dimension. And the Thing continues, he says, "Face it, Stretcho, This time your highfalutin scientific ideals have landed us in the firebook. Good, because of course it was Reed's desire to go explore the negative zone, and they've had some adventures, but this is potentially a disastrous end to their scientific jaunt. And Reed responds, "Thing, please keep your usual caustic comments to yourself. My mind is here in my true body only because it's being transmitted from the psionic matrix aboard the alien ship we captured. I'm now controlling that ship, but my slightest thought must be carefully controlled lest the ship respond to it. With the array of weapons aboard, I could inadvertently blast you into atoms." So I really like the response of the Thing here. He says, "Hey, was that a threat?" And Reed responds, "Far from it, old friend, but a warning to be sure. We are undeniably in dire straits. I beg you to keep a cool head until I can calculate some way of alleviating the situation." And I really do think there is a kind of like a subtext of tension here between Reed, the man of cold logic and reason, and the Thing, the man of passions and emotions. And I don't really buy Reed's explanation that he's not threatening the Thing. It is a warning, but with a little bit of edge to it. So he reaches out for this piece of equipment from the ship, and he's observing it there and says, perfect. Well, we used this captured asteroid to carry us closer to the interface. I had the ship's workshops construct a portable long-range scanner. So Sue there says to her husband, "Reed, you're being vague again, and after the years we've been married, I know you well enough to recognize what that means. You're planning something, aren't you? Something dangerous." So Reed, of course, says, "Yes, given our present situation, Susan, I would think dangerous is a relative term at best, but yes, you're quite right. There is something I must do, and under even the best conditions." But they're interrupted. Johnny spies a chunk of asteroid that is coming directly towards them, and so we have an opportunity now for Byrne to demonstrate Johnny's powers. He flames on in order to smash through the asteroid, but that creates a problem in itself. Reed says, "I was afraid of this. The rock here is far more friable than in our own universe." But Sue uses her powers to create an invisible force field, and the chunks of asteroid rain down on that rather than the trio from the Fantastic Four. "Perfect," exclaims Reed. "Your invisible force field has stopped the deluge as effectively as a steel wall." And I really like the piece of dialogue here from the Thing that Byrne writes from him. He's covering his head there with his hands. "I don't care how many times she does it. I ain't never going to get used to that." And that's nice because, of course, you know, the ordinary human reaction would be to protect yourself. And it is completely weird that Sue can cast an invisible force field that blocks those asteroids fragments from hitting them. So Johnny touches down there. "That's because you're an incorrigible worrywart, Ben. You always have been and you always will be." And the Thing responds tetchily, "Spare me the personality analysis, hotshot. There wouldn't have been anything to worry about if it weren't for you showing off." So the old bickering between that pair in particular, we have it there as we've always had it. And then Reed gets into this harness and he says, "Ben's right, I'm afraid, Johnny. Your actions were well-intentioned, but you must remember not to treat events here in the negative zone as if they will have the same cause and effect ratio as in our universe." So this is Byrne putting on his sci-fi aficionado hat, so to speak, and giving us more details and reminding us about the way the negative zone truly is a different dimension and things work differently there. So Sue there is worried about Reed. She says, "You're going ahead. Oh, Reed, surely the ship scanners can make the measurements." But he says, they lose almost all their efficiency this close to the dimensional interface. "I'm sorry, my darling, but this is the only way, our only hope of finding a path home." And she replies, "I realize that, Reed, but I can't help fearing for your safety. You can be." And I like this piece of dialogue as well, and what it reveals about Reed's character. careless when engrossed in a problem. So he gets completely engrossed, completely absorbed in scientific puzzles and problems, and he forgets about what's going on in the environment around him. Psychologists would call that flow. He's in flow. So time passes and he's completely oblivious to what's going on around him. I'll be careful and alert Sue. He says, don't worry. And then Johnny here, this little detail, good luck, brother-in-law. What a strange thing to say, except of course this is a Jim Shooter era issue of a Marvel comic, and Jim Shooter required that new readers be caught up on the names and powers of characters in the comics, but also indeed perhaps on their relationships to each other as well, hence the brother-in-law line from Johnny, I would say. So Reed here, he's focused on the problem in hand. He's got his portable scanner there. He's got his safety line back to the asteroid that the others are on. And as he gets to the danger zone, he thinks, I dare go no closer. I'm only a few feet from the event horizon. Only my line is keeping me from being drawn across the point of no return. So it's rather like a black hole's event horizon. He feels the pull. I'm taking a tremendous buffeting from the annihilation shockwave, but for the natural resilience of my super pliable body, I'd be unconscious by now. So that gives him the resilience in order to be where he is and take the measurements if he can get them from his portable scanner. So he's hoping for a garbled reading, anything that would give him a clue as to what destroyed the access tunnel. And then, yes, he exclaims in his thoughts, it's working. I'm scanning past the interface, getting a good signal from our HQ in Manhattan. Just the tiniest bit of improved resolution, and here it comes. And then the shock. Oh no, I never dreamed, never guessed. So now he knows what the big problem is and why they can't get back to the Baxter building so easily. And then the scene switches to Manhattan. And we've got Julie D'Angelo. She was Frankie Ray's housemate, and now she's got a new flatmate, and that is Sharon. I forget her second name. And Sharon is concerned about what's going on at the Baxter building because of the weird answer service that Julie got from Annihilus, of all people, picking up the phone. And so they arrive to the Baxter building, or the area where the Baxter building is. The Avengers are there investigating the null field around the Baxter building. And then this is a weird little kind of early 80s scene where we've got this black man here with his name on the back of his denim jacket, Tyrone, stitched onto the back of the jacket. And Sharon comes up to him, hey fella, what's happening? Why is everybody backed up here? And then just listen to the guy's dialogue. Ain't you got no radio, mama? There's some bad nastiness going down around the Fantastic Four's headquarters. Even the Avengers are in on it. You're kidding, she says. So the guy takes his boombox down for her to listen to the radio. This is all such a kind of a little slice of the early 80s and the culture of New York, but also the way it was represented in the comics of the time. Like, this guy is a walking, talking cliche. It's kind of funny from a certain perspective, and most certainly from the perspective of 2025. But then back into the story, Julie sees what's up with the Baxter building. Look at the Baxter building. But to find out exactly what Julie Angel now sees, so she was Julie D'Angelo, so now we're getting an anglicization of her name. Now sees you'll have to pick up Avengers number 233, which was written by Roger Stern but co-plotted by John Byrne, penciled by Byrne, and inked by Joe Sinnott. I don't have that issue currently, but if I do get my hands on it, and I intend to, you'll soon see on the channel a review of it. But it's not necessary for this particular story to read Avengers 233. So back in the negative zone, Sue, of course, is worried about Reed, and also there's more of these asteroids here going towards where Reed is, with his safety line indicating where he is. It's the crazy gravity in this place, Johnny says to his sister. That close to the interface, even a mass as small as Reed's is pulling stuff towards him. So the thing springs into action, but he doesn't jump towards Reed. Instead, he jumps onto the ship that is Reed, and he pulls up a hunk of metal and machinery, and he says, Stretcho, probably wouldn't care much for what I'm planning to do, but he ain't in no position to debate. In fact, he won't be in no position at all unless I do something about them boulders. He's too far away for Susie to cover him with a force field, and the chunks are converging too fast to risk pulling him back with his line. So he rips up the metal and he squashes it into a ball. And he says here, ordinarily, I'd just grab a hold of one of these floating mountains to do this, but this negative zone rock is so crumbly, it wouldn't last more than one hit. So now with this, he's able to take out a bunch of the asteroids. Yahoo! He exclaims. All them hours playing pool as a kid wasn't wasted after all. So that's a pretty cool sequence here, and it reminds the reader that Reed Richards may be the big brain of the team, but he does need the others in order to watch his back when he's engrossed, to use Sue's phrase, in the problem, the scientific problem of what's going on with the interface point between the negative zone dimension and ours. And then he sees the blast in front of him. Blast, despite Sue's warning, I've allowed myself to become too involved. I've jeopardized myself and the others. And then he thinks, and without me, they have no chance of ever getting home. Even with me, our chances are slight and diminishing. So he pulls himself back via the safety line to the asteroid where the others are. Sue asks him, what did you discover out there? The worst, my darling. It's pointless to try to conceal the truth from you now. Were it not for the temporal anomalies between our universe and this one, it would be too late already. So time runs differently in the negative zone from our universe and dimension, which means that even though the Fantastic Four have been in the negative zone for months in their experience, it's like an afternoon in our dimension. Reed continues here. Someone, and I can only speculate as to who, has generated a null energy field around our Baxter building HQ, an expanding field of nothingness, the like of which has only been theorized. For to actually generate such a field could well mean the annihilation of everything. And Reed continues to explain. He says, when the null field has expanded to full size, a second field will begin to fill it. When the two coincide, it will cause a dimensional shift, and our universe and the negative zone will briefly occupy the same physical space at the same time. Matter and antimatter will meet and cancel each other out. It will cause the absolute destruction of two universes. Before that happens, though, there is one thing we might do. So will Reed figure out a solution? What do you think? Let's turn the page. So the scene shifts to our dimension, but it's somewhere other than our galaxy. It's the Andromeda Galaxy, and there is a star cruiser, and in it we have Skrulls, and here we have Frankie Ray. So she is now Nova, Galactus's newest herald, and she's fired at by the Skrull star cruiser, and then she decides, or she says, I'm on the right track. I knew I must be. Okay, guys, you just made a Lulu of a mistake. But as she's about to attack the ship, a voice calls her Nova. The call is no more than a whisper of shifting sands deep within her mind, but her reaction is instantaneous. Coming, Master, she says. Hold on, Nova's coming. So we recognize this ship. It's Galactus's, and there he is in his chair. And how is he? He's failing fast, he says. And he calls her most faithful of all my heralds. We must act quickly. And she replies, fear not, Master. Though the cosmic hunger threatens to consume you, I've located a suitable planet, because of course that is also the office of the heralds and harbingers of Galactus. They find the planets that he requires to sustain him. And which is the one that she's found for him? It is close by, she says, and bursting with the life energies you need to sustain you. It is the Skrull throne world. So, what a setup for coming story. That's going to be interesting. The Skrulls aren't going to take that lying down, eh? And now, the fate of an alien world now hangs upon a slender thread, yet how insignificant this seems in light of what now transpires in the negative zone. So what has Reed been up to in the negative zone? Well, we see this negative zone kind of shadow of the Baxter building, and the Human Torch says it's working. The construct is matching the exact dimensions of the Baxter building. And Sue says it's eerie, like a half-remembered dream. Is that because it does not truly exist in this universe? So it's going to be Reed who'll explain it. He says, that's correct, Sue. This image is a dimensional analog, a negative to the positive field, just now activated in our universe. And the thing says, and that other field looks like our headquarters building. Stretch, I'm beginning to wonder if, don't say it, Ben, says Reed. I'm as certain of this plan as I can be, given the circumstances. But what does he think privately? He says to himself, that's it, Richard, sound as confident as you can. Don't let the others suspect the truth, that we are closer to death now than we've ever been. Whoever or whatever created this annihilation device has set in motion a sequence of events which logic says cannot successfully be interrupted. With luck, activating this negative analog will cause the merging effect of the two fields to be contained to the area of the Baxter building, and will hopefully return us to our own reality simultaneously. So Reed activates the primary frequency modulator, and we see a result in the Baxter building in our dimension. Annihilus there is getting ready to finish off the Avengers. That circuitry smoking though on the computer system. No, something is affecting the secondary field generator, he exclaims. That is impossible. Only a duplicate field in my native negative zone could. And then he realizes, Richards, it must be. Somehow the accursed Fantastic Four are attacking me, but they shall not succeed. And just at that moment, Captain Marvel manifests in her light form in the Baxter building as well. And in this era, she is the leader of the Avengers. Let's see what happens. What happens next happens fast. So the computer system explodes, the console exploding, shattering my life support armor, exclaims Annihilus. And then, of course, I am defeated. But no, the final switch remains intact. With my dying breath, I may yet activate the circuits manually. And it looks like there's a speech balloon there. Is there a mistake here? Is there supposed to be text there? Or is the fact that there's no text part of the implication of what happens when he pulls the switch? And in the negative zone at that instant, it's happening, says Reed. My scan shows a sudden upsurge in energy. Get ready to dive into the field. And this is a really cool effect here where we have a negative as they move from the negative zone into our dimension, and the ink is reversed. So we have a reverse negative there. And I wonder how that was achieved by Byrne in the art. The universe turns inside out, declares the narrator. An instant that seems an eternity, a single moment longer than all the history of two realities. And exactly according to plan, Annihilus is defeated. A gaping, yawning maw opens hungry jaws behind Annihilus. And as he tells us here, I'm being drawn back into the negative zone. Again, we have that negative effect here on the art as well. It looks really good. Really like this sequence here. The transition is wrenching. Even with his exoskeletal armor, Annihilus would be battered, nearly senseless. As it is, little more than reflex sets his shriveled wings beating against the irresistible tug of the interface. His ravaged throat finds voice. A terrible soul-searing scream rips out and is abruptly terminated. So it looks like here to here to here to here, he is destroyed. It looks like he's destroyed by one of those asteroids that hits him. Really great sequence here in the art, in particular from Byrne. At that precise instant, we're told, a thunderclap rips through the Baxter building. The Fantastic Four are home. So here they are. We've got Kirby crackle around them appropriately. And Captain Marvel is taken by surprise. And Sue notes instantly, our costumes, they've changed as if they've become negative. Reed, how could... Oh my Lord, Reed, she says. And then, of course, remember, his mind was being transmitted from the ship, but the ship hasn't come to the Baxter building. So what's happened here? Is he not going to drop to the ground without a mind? I'm all right, Sue, he says. As I hoped, the transition restored my mind to my body. Like how? How is that? It's a deus ex machina. Never mind. Don't ask too many questions. Let's move on with the story. The Fantastic Four are back. They're in new costumes designed by John Byrne. but the effect is somewhat disorientating, and you, young woman, he doesn't recognize her, he's never met her before, have a great deal of explaining to do, because he thinks that maybe she was behind everything that happened. But the Thing has met Captain Marvel before. Let her go, Stretch. She's on the up and up, all right. She's the new Captain Marvel. Yeah, she and me met a few months back when. And then the Thing spots Alicia Masters. So in the previous issue, Annihilus threatened to kill Alicia. Did he? She looks like she's been battered by him at the very least. So the Thing picks her up and she's traumatized. Annihilus, no, don't hurt me again, she exclaims. So the Thing grabs her out of the way, everybody out of the way, coming through. Got to get to the hangar deck, get a fantastic car, get her to the hospital. And in this moment, Sue realizes with a wrench, Reed, if Alicia's here, if she's hurt. And Reed says, don't worry, Sue, she'll be fine, she must be fine. That's not who Sue is thinking of. No, you don't understand. If she's here, I'd hoped, I prayed she'd be out of the building with her son, Franklin. And here we have a Glynis Wein trope, the red background for this moment of emotional intensity. And Sue goes running after Franklin, but he must also be somewhere in our headquarters. We've got to find him. And Reed says, we'll split up, Sue. You cover the residential level and I'll. But then he realizes the fire. Blast. I should have realized that with all the damage on this floor, fires would break out. I can't look for Franklin when the whole building could blow up. So the Human Torch helps too by drawing the fire into his own corona. But Reed says, good work, Johnny, but you'd better flame off until I can complete a safety scan. Your own flame might inadvertently touch off another blaze. So now, shouldn't Reed go looking for his son? But Captain Marvel interrupts and she says, Dr. Richards, I'm not sure what use my energy powers could be in this situation, but if there's anything I can do to help. I think not, Captain. Thanks all the same, he says. It looks as if the danger is past. My scanner's clear. And behind them, the elevator doors open. The Avengers are ready for a confrontation, but instead they find Captain Marvel talking to Reed Richards. I like this. It's kind of funny here where they're packed into the elevator, the Avengers of this particular era. So you can see Scarlet Witch there. You can see the Wasp, Captain America, Thor, and She-Hulk. And Johnny sees them coming out of the elevator. Johnny Reed, we thought you'd been. What in blazes is going on here? So we get a lot of explanation here in this particular panel. You can see from the speech balloons. And it's all catch up on what was happening in Avengers 233. But the Scarlet Witch has a particular focus. Please, we can talk about this later. Right now, the Vision needs help. Once again, Reed is sidetracked from searching for Franklin. I mean, shouldn't the well-being of his own boy, his own son, take precedence over all of this? But it's good characterization from Byrne that Reed would be distracted while Sue is searching for the boy. But is there going to be like some emotional blowback from Reed, for Reed rather, because of the fact that he didn't go searching after Franklin and he got absorbed and sidetracked into all of these things? So he says here, having scanned the Vision, I'd say that Thor's assessment was correct, Wanda. There's nothing seriously wrong with your husband. The drastic energy drain he experienced in entering the null field disrupted certain response synapses, but there should be no permanent damage. In fact, by slipping into this sleep-like state, so some kind of coma, his android body has already initiated its own repairs. I could probably speed it up, the process, if... and then off-panel, somebody's hesitantly calling his name. It's going to be Sue, right? So what is the situation with Franklin? Well, that doesn't look good. I found Franklin, she says. Good Lord, he exclaims. I'd hoped that he was not on this floor in the blast. He wasn't, she says. He was below, but he's so still. So Johnny there alerts the emergency ward of a hospital. Moving as one, 7 of Earth's greatest dash across the shattered lab. And as the elevator doors hiss closed, Wanda's left there with Captain Marvel, and she's wondering about the Vision, her husband. So next, the shocking continuation of her saga will be found in the pages of The Thing number 2 and the Avengers number 234. And then be here next issue for Nova, Galactus Division, the Scarlet Witch, and a startling development for the leader of the FF. Off, so there's a little typo there in the handwritten lettering. The FF don't miss fragments in 30 days. So there has got to be consequences for what's happened to Franklin here by being left behind in the Baxter building while they went off exploring in the negative zone. And Sue was worried a few issues ago. In issue 251, if I remember, she was worried about how safe the environment was for Franklin, for a young boy. And here we have the letters page at the end of the issue, and you see the way it's sideways. It's clever because these letters are all about issue 252, which was the sideways issue of Fantastic Four. So the letters page is sideways too. I like that. That's clever and fun. And so there's a letter here that includes an observation of mine as well about Alicia's static electricity. While hanging upside down, her dress so clings to her lovely legs that a good 3/4 of it totally defies gravity. Reed could possibly add to the FF coffers by finding a remedy for this bothersome condition, says Wallace Lee Hopkins. Yeah, sure, replies the editor, or maybe Byrne. Incurable static cling. Sounds good to us as an explanation. So here again we have readers being directed to The Thing number 2. And in 30 days, be here in 30 days for a little opus we call Bits and Pieces. It starts a whole new ball rolling for a fabulous foursome, so you won't want to miss it, will you? So a pretty satisfying wrap up to the Negative Zone saga, and also we have the addition of these new Fantastic Four uniforms designed by Byrne. Kind of modernize the look of the Fantastic Four for the 1980s. Well, I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on John Byrne's Fantastic Four issue 256. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comment section. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like and share the video. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.